sister bullied our younger brother his entire life. Now he's not inviting her to his wedding. And our parents are finally being forced to face the truth. I'm the middle child, and my younger brother is getting married in a few months. But our older sister, she's not invited, and neither are our parents. If they keep pushing for her to be included, they're furious, acting like he's being cold and vindictive, even though they know exactly why those boundaries exist. They just don't want to admit it. Growing up, my sister didn't just tease him like normal siblings do. She targeted him, humiliated him in front of guests, mocked his voice, his weight, his hobbies, anything she could. Once during his birthday, she read his private journal out loud to a group of kids, then laughed when he locked himself in the bathroom. Another time, she convinced her parents to cancel his sleepover by lying that he'd been mean to her, then bragged about it afterward. And the worst part, she was the golden child. She never got called out. My parents would say, "That's how siblings are," and tell him to stop overreacting. I stayed quiet back then because I didn't want to rock the boat. I hate myself for that now. When he finally went to college out of state, he started healing. He kept low contact, but our parents never stopped guilt-tripping him about holidays. Now he's engaged to an amazing woman, planning a small, drama-free wedding without our sister. They asked me to be the reasonable one and talk him into inviting her. I refused. That's when they turned on me. There's something I never told him. Until recently back in high school when he got into a great college. She sent a fake anonymous tip to the school saying he'd cheated on his SAT. It triggered an investigation. He almost lost his spot. A teacher had to vouch for him. She told me it was just to shake him up. I stayed silent then. When I told him now, he just said, "I always suspected." He wasn't even surprised. Then she went nuclear, emailing our entire extended family, calling him mentally unstable and blaming his fiancée for isolating him from family values. She never mentioned the bullying. Some relatives bought it. Others quietly told me they'd seen her behavior for years, but never spoke up. My parents still defending her even after I showed them old screenshots from her friends where she bragged about getting him in trouble on purpose. My dad's only response was, "That proves nothing." It got worse. My brother finally uninvited our parents after they kept pushing. The day of the wedding, they showed up anyway, dressed up, gift bag in hand, acting like they were just dropping by. He told them calmly, "You made your choice. Please leave." And they did. The wedding itself was perfect. No fake smiles, no tension, just love, laughter, and people who actually wanted to be there. Afterward, my mom posted in the family group chat about how cutting off your own blood is heartless. I left the chat. My sister went online claiming she had apologized, which she hadn't, and painting herself as the victim. Now my brother's changing his last name to his wife. He wants no ties to the family that let him be tormented for years. I'm low contact with my parents, too. A few weeks later, they had their first baby. I'm the god EP parentant. My sister tried to reach out one last time. My brother didn't even hesitate. He got a restraining order. The family I grew up with might be gone. But the peace my brother has now, that's worth I'm the middle child, and my younger brother is getting married in a few months. But our older sister and even our parents aren't invited. When they push to include her, they act furious, calling my brother cold and vindictive. Yet they know exactly why those boundaries exist. They just don't want to admit it. Growing up, my sister wasn't just teasing him like typical siblings. She targeted and humiliated him relentlessly, mocking his voice, his weight, his hobbies, anything she could weaponize. One birthday, she read his private journal aloud to a group of kids, laughing as he locked himself in the bathroom. Another time, she lied to my parents to cancel his sleepover, then bragged about it afterward. She was the golden child who never faced consequences. My parents dismissed it, saying, "That's how siblings are," telling him to stop overreacting. I stayed quiet to avoid rocking the boat. I hate myself for that now. When he finally escaped to college out of state, he began to heal. He kept low contact, but my parents guilt-tripped him constantly about holidays. Now, he's engaged to an amazing woman and planning a small, drama-free wedding without our sister. They asked me to convince him to invite her. I refused. Then they turned on me. There's something I never told him until recently. Back in high school, after he got accepted to a great college, She sent a fake anonymous tip accusing him of cheating on the SAT. It triggered an investigation, and he nearly lost his spot. A teacher vouched for him. When I told him, he said, "I always suspected." He wasn't surprised. She went nuclear, emailing extended family, calling him mentally unstable and blaming his fiancé for isolating him. She never mentioned the years of bullying. Some relatives bought her story. Others quietly confided they'd seen her behavior but never spoke up. My parents still defend her, even after I showed them screenshots where she bragged about causing him trouble. My dad's only response? That proves nothing. It got worse. After they kept pushing to include her, my brother uninvited our parents. On the wedding day, they showed up anyway, dressed up with gifts, acting like no one had been shut out. He told them calmly, "You made your choice. Please leave." And they did. The wedding was perfect. No fake smiles, no tension. Just love, laughter, and people who truly cared. Afterward, my mom posted in the family chat calling it heartless to cut off your own blood. I left the chat. My sister claimed online she'd apologized, which she hadn't, painting herself the victim. Now, my brother's changing his last name to his wife's. He wants no ties to the family that tormented him. I'm low contact with my parents, too. A few weeks later, my brother and his wife had their first baby. I'm the godparent. My sister tried reaching out one last time. My brother didn't hesitate. He got a restraining order. The family I grew up with might be gone, but the peace my brother has now, that's worth everything. Story 2. My wife and her sister fired me the moment they took over the company. "We don't need lazy people like you," they said. I smiled politely and left. The next day, their father asked, "Why the hell did you fire him? Haven't you read the contract?" When they saw the contract, they were shocked by what they saw, because the contract was Chapter 1, the firing. The office smelled different that morning, not the usual faint scent of coffee and printer ink. No, this was sharp, artificial, like perfume sprayed to mask something rotten. I walked into the boardroom to see my wife Claire and her younger sister, Megan, already seated at the head of the table. Both wore the same smug expression. That combination of self-satisfaction and fake sympathy people use when they think they're doing you a favor while stabbing you in the back. Claire folded her hands. "We've been reviewing the company's future, Daniel," she began, her tone sweet enough to rot teeth. Megan leaned forward. "And honestly, we don't need lazy people like you dragging us down." The words hit harder than I expected, but I kept my face still. "Lazy," I repeated softly. After 15 years building this place from nothing, Claire didn't flinch. "Exactly. You've been coasting, and now that we've taken over, we're moving forward without you. Effective immediately." I glanced between them, my mind already racing, not in panic, but in calculation. I thought of the contract in my desk drawer, the one they clearly hadn't read. I smiled politely, pushed my chair back, and stood. "If that's your decision, I won't argue." I left the room without another word. Behind me, I heard Megan chuckle. They thought they'd just destroyed me. They had no idea they just signed their own ruin. Chapter 2. The Father's Call. By evening, I had cleared my office. No drama, no confrontation, just a clean exit. That night, I sat in my home study, a glass of whiskey in hand, going over the contract for the 100th time. Every word was a loaded weapon. It had been drawn up years ago when Claire's father, Richard, first brought me in as his right hand. I'd invested not just my time, but my own capital into the company when it was still a struggling family business. Richard had insisted on a clause, a safety net, in case of future leadership disputes. They didn't know it existed. The next morning, my phone buzzed. "Daniel." Richard's voice was sharp, urgent. "Why the hell did Claire and Megan fire you?" I let a beat of silence stretch. "You'll have to ask them." "Oh, I did," he snapped. "They said you were lazy." His tone dripped disbelief. "Do they even realize what they've done? Have they read the contract?" "I'm going to guess." "No," I said, smiling into my coffee. There was a pause. "Send it to me now." I emailed him the file and leaned back in my chair. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Again. This time, Richard was laughing. A deep, almost cruel laugh. They've just fired the majority shareholder, Daniel. And unless they buy you out at your valuation, they lose controlling interest. I could hear the pieces falling into place in his mind. Meet me at the office tomorrow, he said. We're going to watch their faces when they realize exactly what they've done. I didn't say it out loud, but I was already picturing that moment, the shock, the panic, and I was going to savor every second of it. Chapter 3. The Boardroom Ambush. The next morning, the air in the boardroom was thick, not with perfume this time, but tension. Claire sat at the head of the table, phone in hand, scrolling like she had better places to be. Megan was sipping a latte, wearing the kind of smile people wear when they think they're untouchable. Richard walked in first, his footsteps echoing. He didn't bother to sit. I followed, holding a single folder, the contract like it was nothing more than a piece of paper. Girls, Richard began, his voice cold enough to frost the glass walls. I've been informed you fired Daniel yesterday. Claire didn't even look up. That's right. We've got this under control now, Dad. Megan chimed in. It's nothing personal, but he was dead weight. Richard's jaw tightened. Dead weight. That dead weight owns 52% of this company. The color drained from Claire's face. Megan blinked rapidly like she was trying to process a foreign language. That's impossible, Claire finally stammered. We took over. You took over operations, I said, my voice calm and almost conversational. Not ownership. The contract we all signed 15 years ago gave me majority shares in exchange for my investment and growth guarantees. I slid the folder across the table. And here's the fun part. There's a breach clause. Fire me without just cause and the buyout price triples. Megan's mouth fell open. Triples? That's enough to bankrupt you, Richard finished for her. Unless you reinstate Daniel immediately and step down from executive control. The room went silent except for the faint ticking of the wall clock. I could feel the power shifting slowly, deliciously back into my hands. Claire's voice cracked. You planned this? I smiled. No, Claire, you planned this. I just read the paperwork. Chapter 4. Closing the Trap. The tension in the room was like a live wire, humming and dangerous. Claire kept glancing at Megan as if one of them might magically come up with a way out. Megan just sat there, her latte now cold and untouched. Her lipstick smudged on the rim, looking like a red warning flag. Richard stepped back and let me speak, a small, deliberate gesture that told them everything about where his loyalty now lay. Here's what happens next, I said, sliding a second document out of the folder. You have two options. 1. Reinstate me as CEO immediately, sign over operational control, and walk away quietly. Megan crossed her arms. And option 2, I let the silence stretch until they both leaned forward. Option 2 is I trigger the breach clause, force a buyout at triple value, and when you can't pay, which you can't, your shares get auctioned. I'll buy them for pennies on the dollar. And then I paused, letting the hook sink in. You'll be unemployed, broke, and barred from any executive role in the industry for 10 years. Megan's smugness cracked first. This is blackmail. No. Richard cut in sharply. This is business, and you two just proved why you were never ready for it. Claire's voice was barely a whisper. You wouldn't actually ruin us. I leaned forward. Claire, you fired me and called me lazy after 15 years of building your family's company. You humiliated me in front of staff I trained. So yes, I would. The clock ticked again, each second pulling them closer to the cliff. I could see it in their eyes. They knew I had them. Fine, Claire finally said, her voice bitter. We'll step down, but no one outside this room has to know. I sat back and smiled slowly. Oh, Claire, everyone's going to know. Chapter 5. The Public Fall. 3 days later, the company press conference was set, officially built as a strategic leadership announcement. The conference hall was packed. Shareholders, employees, local business leaders, and reporters all buzzed with curiosity. Claire and Megan sat 2 seats away from me at the long stage table, their faces carefully composed, like porcelain masks hiding the panic beneath. They'd agreed to my terms, but I'd made sure quiet was never part of the deal. Richard took the podium first. Thank you all for coming. There's been a misunderstanding in leadership these past weeks. Today, we correct it. He stepped aside. I walked up, microphone in hand, and scanned the audience. Hundreds of eyes, cameras, and recording phones aimed right at us. I want to thank everyone here for supporting this company through its recent turbulence, I began. 3 days ago, I was fired by my wife and her sister without cause. They called me lazy. A ripple of murmurs swept the crowd. What they didn't realize, I continued, letting my voice drop, is that I've been the majority shareholder for 15 years. Their move not only violated the contract, it nearly bankrupted our leadership. So today, I'm announcing that they are stepping down permanently, effective immediately. Gasps, whispers, flashes from cameras. Claire shifted in her seat, jaw tight, eyes darting toward the exits. Megan's knuckles widened as she gripped the edge of the table. And I added, I'm releasing an internal report outlining the reckless financial decisions made in their short tenure. Our employees and partners deserve transparency. The crowd's murmurs grew into outright chatter. Several reporters shot up, their hands shouting questions. I ignored them. Finally, I turned to Claire and Megan, still seated beside me. You wanted the company without me. Now you have nothing, and everyone knows why. The room erupted, not in applause, but in the raw electric noise of reputations imploding. Chapter 6. No Way Back. By the next morning, the video of the press conference had gone viral. The headline on every local business page was the same. Family coup backfires, sisters forced out in public corporate ouster. I didn't have to lift a finger. The internet handled the rest. Former employees posted stories about Claire's arrogance, Megan's incompetence. Industry blogs speculated on the toxic leadership experiment that lasted less than a month. Within a week, their reputations were radioactive. No company would touch them, not even for low-level consulting work. Their finances were collapsing. The breach clause penalties drained their personal accounts. Their cars and jewelry started appearing on auction listings. Their allies turned on them. Even old friends avoided public contact. Richard called me one evening, chuckling. Claire tried to borrow money from me. I told her to get a job. Maybe you'd hire her. I laughed, but there was no malice in it anymore. Just a deep-settled satisfaction. I think she's already had her exit interview. 2 weeks later, I got a plain white envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single note in Claire's handwriting. You win. Are you happy now? I set it on my desk and stared at it for a moment. Was I happy? This wasn't about happiness. This was about balance. She had tried to strip me of everything I built. My work, my dignity, my place in the company I gave half my life to. Now she knew what it felt like to lose it all. And the best part, this time the doors she'd slammed behind me were locked behind her. Epilogue. The callback. A month later, I was back in the same boardroom where it all began. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The sharp perfume was long gone. My chair at the head of the table felt like it had never been taken from me. One of the junior managers, a kid Claire once mocked for being too slow, handed me the quarterly report. Profits were already recovering. As I signed off on the document, I glanced at the empty seats where Claire and Megan had sat that day, so certain they were untouchable. I remembered Megan's words. We don't need lazy people like you. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading. Turns out, I murmured to myself, lazy people don't build empires, but impulsive ones burn them to the ground. And just like that, I closed the folder and their chapter for good. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you have think about this story in the comments below.